Tonight, Tiger Woods declines to meet with police for a third time while issuing a statement that he alone is responsible for the car crash that is fueling so many rumors. I'm Russ Mitchell. Also tonight, 4 police officers are shot to death at a Tacoma, Washington coffee shop in what the sheriff's office says was a flat-out ambush. Shopping is up, spending down as retailers open the holiday shopping season with a no-holds-barred price war. And The Chosen Few. A new documentary casts light on a deadly Korean War battle that most Americans have forgotten.
They didn't slow down. They didn't stop. They just kept coming.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
And good evening. Tiger Woods may have issued a statement, but the questions remain about what exactly happened the morning he crashed his SUV outside of his Florida home. Today, the golf great blamed himself for the incident and called it a private matter. At the same time, he and his wife, for the third time, refused to be interviewed by police. Randall Pinkston is in Windermere, Florida, with the very latest. Randall, good evening.
Hello, Russ. Florida law only requires Tiger Woods to produce a driver's license, proof of insurance, and proof of registration. Today, Woods did just that, but did not provide any details about the accident that's fueling rumors and some say damaging his reputation.
Still in seclusion in his gated community, Tiger Woods today spoke out on his website about the now notorious car wreck outside his Florida home. The only person responsible for the accident is me, said Woods. Then, addressing published reports about a rumored argument with his wife prior to the accident, Woods said, "My wife, Elin, acted courageously when she saw I was hurt and in trouble. She was the first person to help me. Any other assertion is absolutely false." These photos from the TMZ website show Woods' SUV just after he crashed into his neighbor's tree. According to reports, his wife ran to his aid, breaking the rear window of the SUV to pull Woods from the driver's seat. The 911 call from a neighbor Friday morning was released today.
What happened? What's wrong?
I have my neighbor. He hit the tree, and we came out here just to see what was going on. I see him, and he's laying down.
By hit a tree, do you mean it was an auto accident?
Yes, there was an auto accident, yes.
Today, CBS News obtained these exclusive pictures of Florida Highway Patrol investigators entering Woods' home. For 2 days, he and his wife had delayed being interviewed by authorities. And today's visit was brief. A spokesperson for the Florida Highway Patrol said Woods' attorney, Mark Nejame, had canceled the interview. The mayor of Windermere, whose police force responded first to the accident, says he understands Woods' effort to avoid the spotlight.
I think he tries to keep to himself, and this is the kind of response I would expect.
Public relations experts say Woods' handling of this incident amounts to a bad slice into the rough.
I think, frankly, they mishandled this from the beginning by not coming clean or at least putting some doubt in some of the tabloid stories that were running around.
The Florida Highway Patrol says the investigation is continuing and that charges are pending, which does not mean that there will be charges, only that it's possible. For his part, Woods says this entire incident has been very stressful for himself and his wife. He pleads with the public for understanding, saying, "I deserve some privacy, no matter how intrusive some people can be." Russ?
Randall Pinkston, Windermere, Florida. Thank you very much. Also tonight, authorities in Washington state are on the lookout for a man who shot and killed 4 police officers today in what investigators describe as a targeted ambush. It happened in the town of Lakewood, just outside of Tacoma. Hattie Kaufman has the latest.
Cops scrambled over the scene of an ambush, searching for the shooter of 4 police officers, 3 male, 1 female, who were killed while sitting in the suburban Tacoma coffee shop. There was no robbery and no one else in the restaurant was harmed.
We do know that this wasn't targeted. This was more of an execution, walked in with the specific mind of shooting police officers.
This is the 2nd targeted police shooting in the area in the last month. Seattle police officer Timothy Brenton was killed Halloween night as he was sitting in his vehicle. Cops from throughout the area attended Brenton's funeral.
Horrible disbelief.
In that case, the shooter, Christopher Monfort, is also accused of firebombing 4 police cars. He's in custody.
There's probably 20 cops inside right now.
In this latest incident, police combed through businesses near the coffee shop, hunting for a suspect.
This is an example of the danger that police officers and deputy sheriffs and state troopers face every day.
Detectives are interviewing witnesses in the coffee shop, trying to get information.
We do know somebody that's armed out there and who has weapons and has already shot 4 police officers in cold blood. Isn't about afraid to take more of us or you or a citizen out.
Police believe the gunman, described as a black male in his 20s or 30s, had an accomplice, a getaway driver. And authorities say this is a deliberate, targeted killing of police officers. Russ?
Heidi Kaufman, thanks a lot. Let's turn now to the economy. And on this weekend after Thanksgiving, there is good but not great news for retailers. New figures show Americans spent $41.2 billion this extended weekend. That's up slightly from last year. However, average spending per person was down nearly $30 from a year ago. Bianca Solorzano has more on the intense battle for your holiday dollars and why now may be the time to buy.
Bargain hunting is the theme this holiday season. Would you buy anything that's not on sale this year?
Oh, definitely not. I'm just strictly buying sales.
With the country still in the economic doldrums, retailers ordered less merchandise this year and are slashing prices early.
Retailers have adjusted their ordering levels and also adjusted the prices of their goods to accommodate this new normal that consumers are watching carefully how much they spend.
If you're out shopping, it's easy to find great prices. If you have a smartphone and the price comparison app, you just scan the barcode and up come the best prices nearby. The smarter, well-armed consumer is driving some retailers to engage in price wars, notably Amazon. Traditionally an upscale online vendor is now competing with price slasher Walmart. On Black Friday, the battle was waged over the Easy Bake Oven. Normally $28, Walmart offered it for $18. Amazon was quick to match that price. At Walmart, a Samsung 50-inch Plasma HD TV went for $698 on Black Friday. Amazon offered the same TV at $699. Even Barbie saw her price slashed to $9.99 on Amazon, a penny below Walmart's low price of $10.
Amazon has been going into other categories that Walmart sells, and now they're trying to get aggressive with prices, and it's very hard to compete with Walmart, who has over $400 billion in sales, compared to Amazon, just under $30 billion in annual sales.
There were actually 23 million more shoppers this holiday weekend compared to last year. But Russ, as you mentioned in those statistics earlier, they are spending less this year and really pinching their pennies. Russ?
Okay, Bianca Solorzano here in New York City. Thanks a lot. Overseas now, Iran today defied the UN by declaring that it plans to build 10 additional uranium enrichment plants, a move that was quickly denounced by the United States. Richard Roth has more on the Iranian announcement and its possible consequences.
Iran announced it's expanding its nuclear program just days after the UN's atomic watchdog demanded a freeze on uranium enrichment, with an ambitious timetable to build 10 new plants to process uranium.
The organization has 2 months to start construction of 5 of them.
Enriched uranium can fuel power plants to make electricity, but further refined, it can also be used to make atomic bombs. Despite Iran's denials, the West worries that's what it's trying to do. The White House said the expansion plan is another violation of Iran's international obligations, warning time is running out for Iran to address growing concerns about its nuclear program. The UN agency had no official response, but measuring its own inability to influence Iran, last week the agency's outgoing director was pessimistic.
We have effectively reached a dead end unless Iran engages fully with us.
Or the announcement might move the UN Security Council closer to pressuring Iran through economic sanctions.
The problem, of course, is the question of whether or not sanctions at the end of the day will really change the regime's behavior and their calculus with respect to the development of their nuclear program.
Iran's expansion plan may be more symbolic than realistic, but no one's doubting its intent to project a posture of defiance. Richard Roth, CBS News, London.
And it's still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News. The many challenges facing President Obama, including his sagging poll numbers. This is shaping up to be a very busy week for President Obama, with a speech on Tuesday explaining his strategy in Afghanistan, the Senate beginning debate in the health care bill, and a scheduled jobs summit. That all may be taking a toll on the president's popularity, which has sunk below the 50% mark, this according to the latest Gallup Daily Tracking poll. Joining me to discuss the president's situation are our senior political correspondent Jeff Greenfield here in New York and analyst John Dickerson in Washington. Good evening to both of you guys.
Howdy. Good evening.
Jeff, I'll begin with you. How concerned should the White House be about these poll numbers?
Here's what history says for the last 40-something years. When a president's approval rating drops under 50%, his party in the next midterm loses an average of 41 seats, which happens to be exactly the margin the Democrats have in the House. They also have to be concerned that wavering Democrats in Congress looking at those numbers may be less inclined to follow the president's lead. So I think on two counts, they probably need to be concerned.
So you don't take this lightly at all?
If they do, they're making a mistake.
Let's talk about the president's talk in Afghanistan on Tuesday and take a look at a new CBS News poll that shows that the number of Americans who support a troop increase is actually down from last month. John, let me ask you, from a political standpoint, how important is the president's speech on Tuesday night?
Politically, it's very important. He's speaking to a country where 60% of the people are going to be unhappy with his decision. And he's also going to be trying to speak here in a way we've not heard him before give a war speech here. You know, we heard President Bush give quite a number of these. This will be a test of President Obama's ability to persuade. He'll be making a lot of specific promises about what will happen in Afghanistan, what the exit strategy looks like, and when troops can start coming home. We'll see if the American people believe any of those promises. And finally, every promise he makes will be one that they'll be judging him on in 2012.
Okay, let's give a summary now of the big three ticket items on the president's agenda this week. That would be the economy, health care, and Afghanistan. John, you begin. In your mind, what should be job one for the White House?
Job one politically has to be the economy. It's what people care about, and it's what they judge him on. Following that comes health care and then Afghanistan. But if you look at the things he can actually take swift action on, the order is reversed. He can make a quick move on Afghanistan. Health care is trudging along, but something will happen by the State of the Union probably next year. But the economy is intractable, it's difficult, and there aren't a lot of things the president can do.
Jeff, a lot of things on the president's plate. Where should he begin?
If people don't have a sense that things are getting better in the broadest possible sense by next year, by next fall, he's in really big political trouble. I think that's what's caused these numbers to go down. Everything he's done so far is about either the future or about with Afghanistan asking for tough decisions.
Jeff Greenfield here in New York and John Dickerson in Washington. As always, thank you both very much. And just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the federal government's home mortgage insurer at risk of running out of money itself. The government tomorrow will announce rules that pressure lenders to make mortgage payments more affordable for those at risk of default. Meanwhile, a government agency, the Federal Housing Administration, has been propping up the housing market by insuring nearly half of all new mortgages. But it's not without risk. Here's Hari Srinivasan.
New York City bus driver Stephen Mitchell is 2 months behind on his mortgage payments, a mortgage guaranteed by Uncle Sam and at risk of foreclosure.
It is embarrassing to be able, to lose your home.
Mitchell's home loan is insured by the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA. When his brother and a friend who were helping pay the $3,200 monthly mortgage lost their jobs, making payments became tough.
As long as everybody was doing a part, yeah, it could have been done.
Mitchell's home is one of 5.5 million purchases or refinances currently insured by the FHA. In total, those loans are worth $696 billion. The problem is 8.5% of these loans are at least 90 days delinquent or in foreclosure proceedings.
I call it FHA Insurance Armageddon.
Gary Lacefield used to be an investigator for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, FHA's parent agency.
I believe sometime in the next 15 to 18 months that you're going to see a major hit on the FHA insurance fund.
The question is, how much of a hit? The FHA recently disclosed that future projected losses could leave it with only $4 billion in reserves. That's less than the 2% minimum Congress requires.
Could it get worse? It absolutely could, and that's what we have to be prepared for.
Since David Stevens took over in July, the FHA has tightened standards.
We look at every institution that underwrites loans using FHA mortgages. We look at them on a monthly basis.
But because loans are hard to get elsewhere, the FHA's sheer volume of loans has quadrupled in the past 3 years. There are 3,000 more FHA-authorized lenders than there were in 2006, and the FHA has fewer than 200 people to check those lenders and review loan applications. Fraud investigator Gary Lacefield is surprised certain lenders with borrower default rates as high as 20% are still doing FHA business.
As of right now, these companies are still active, originating loans, which is pretty scary.
The FHA has pulled the plug on some problem lenders, and federal prosecutors are suing one of the fastest growing ones, Lend America, which aggressively marketed its services with TV ads that looked like a newscast.
Lend America is making home loans available immediately to refinance up to 97.75% of a home's value.
Prosecutors say Lend America repeatedly invented borrowers' income information to close loans. The company declined to comment to CBS News, but its attorney told a federal judge the most recent alleged fraud occurred 15 months ago, and the firm has since revamped from top to bottom.
We're going to make certain that Lend America and every other lender in America behave according to the standards that we expect. If they don't, they will be out of the system.
In order to stay in his FHA-insured home, Stephen Mitchell is seeking refinancing again and a lower monthly mortgage payment.
I'm a fighter. I'm not going to give up.
And he hopes to avoid becoming another FHA foreclosure statistic. Hari Srinivasan, CBS News, New York.
Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, veterans of a deadly Korean War battle with a chance to tell their stories at last. Finally this evening, today marks the 59th anniversary of one of history's most brutal battles during the Korean War. U.S. Marines and soldiers took on enemy troops in the worst weather conditions imaginable. Two Marines of a later generation are making sure their courage is not forgotten. Jeff Glor has the story.
The weapons froze, Chow froze, and we froze.
Now 85 years old, Joseph Owen was a young first lieutenant in November 1950 when he and nearly 20,000 other American fighters trying to gain ground against the surging North Koreans and Chinese army were outmaneuvered, trapped behind enemy lines at North Korea's treacherous Chosin Reservoir. The Americans were outgunned 10-1.
We were there, and, well, they weren't going to take us out because it was cold outside. There were nights as cold as literally 30 below. And on top of this, we're fighting in blizzards.
The Americans had to fight their way out, battling nonstop for 14 days, killing more than 30,000 Chinese as they trekked 70 miles to safety. Along the way, rescuing 100,000 refugees. But their courageous escape came at a severe cost. More than 3,100 Americans, nearly a third of them Marines, were killed and 13,000 were wounded. Joseph Owen lost one of his closest friends.
A bullet must have gone over my shoulder, and because as Joe and I were talking, there appears a dark spot right under his helmet line in his forehead, and Joe's eyes went empty, and so I just left them there in the snow. My pal.
For their valor, the military awarded 17 Medals of Honor and 70 Navy Crosses. Still, few Americans know this heroic tale.
If you look at high school textbooks, there's some have as little as one sentence on Korea. If you're lucky, you might get a half a page.
Anton Sattler and Brian Iglesias, both Marines and Iraq war vets, are trying to change that, producing the first documentary on the battle.
I was there. You're proud of the moment. And you're glad you survived.
They have spent nearly $20,000 of their own money gathering emotional stories from 183 Korean War veterans.
Why me? Why them? Why do we survive?
Would you say this whole experience changed your life?
It's one of the most significant moments in my life, I think so. Absolutely.
If I never made another film, I'd die happy.
What do we have here?
Joseph Owen still carries the medals he won with him, the Silver Star and Purple Heart among them.
And they surrounded us.
He says his part in the film is about leaving a legacy.
It means that my grandchildren will know that guys like me contributed something vital to the survival of this wonderful country.
The legacy of a proud Marine who is part of only a few, the chosen few. Jeff Glor, CBS News, New York.
And that is the CBS Evening News. Later on CBS, 60 Minutes. I'm Russ Mitchell in New York. Katie will be here tomorrow, and I'll see you again first thing in the morning on The Early Show. Good night.